If you've got a jar of old coins sitting around, especially Jefferson nickels, you might want to stop what you're doing and check if one of those coins was minted in 1984. Specifically, a 1984 Jefferson nickel with AP mint mark. Why? Because what looks like just another 5-cent coin could actually be worth thousands or even, in some ultra-rare cases, be part of stories where the right buyer pays up to $1 million. The 1984 P. Monticello Jefferson nickel is a coin that surprises collectors and non-collectors alike. Minted in Philadelphia, it features the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side and his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary nickel you'd find in your change. But not all of them are equal. Some are worth face value. Others? They're hidden gems that only trained eyes and lucky hands come across. Let's start with the basics. In 1984, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 600 million Jefferson nickels. That's a huge number. So you might be wondering what makes any one of them valuable. The answer lies in rarity, condition, and errors. Most coins circulated and show heavy wear, but the ones that were preserved in pristine condition, graded by professionals as MS65, MS66, or even MS67, are rare. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. But it gets even better when we start talking about varieties and minting errors. Some 1984 P nickels have very specific and desirable errors. Things like off-center strikes, full steps on the Monticello reverse, and doubled die errors. Let's talk about full steps first. On the reverse side of the Jefferson nickel, look at Monticello. There are stairs leading up to the building. If you can clearly count 5 or 6 sharp steps without breaks or blur, then you might have what collectors call a full steps coin. These are extremely valuable, especially when in mint state condition. A full steps 1984 P nickel graded MS67 can easily command hundreds to thousands of dollars at auction. Now imagine combining that full steps designation with a rare error or a nearly flawless strike. That's where things get wild. Certain nickels with dramatic off-center strikes or strong double die obverse can multiply in value dramatically. Coins that are both rare and in top-tier condition have been known to reach figures most people never expect from a simple nickel. In fact, there have been private collector transactions and auction moments where error nickels of the Jefferson series have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And while there's no public record of a 1984 P nickel selling for exactly $1 million yet, the truth is, that amount isn't as far-fetched as it sounds when you consider the world of private collectors and the ever-rising demand for unique numismatic treasures. So what should you do if you think you've got one of these valuable coins? First, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin can actually destroy its value. Second, examine it closely. Check the Monticello side for the full steps. Look at the date and mint mark. Use a magnifying glass or a coin loupe. If anything looks unusual, like doubling in the letters or numbers, or if the coin looks off-center or oddly shaped, you might have a mint error. Your next step is to get it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade gives buyers and sellers confidence in the coin's authenticity and quality, and it can increase the value dramatically. Now, if you're someone who's never thought about coin collecting or investing in coins, the Jefferson nickel might not seem like the flashiest place to start. But it's actually a smart move. These coins are affordable, full of hidden value, and often overlooked. Especially ones from the 1980s like this 1984 P issue, where minting inconsistencies and the sheer number produced means more chances for rare variations to exist. Think of it this way. You could be walking past thousands of dollars without even realizing it, every time you toss your change into a drawer. Collectors today are on the hunt for these coins more than ever before. As time passes, high-grade examples become scarcer. Coins get lost, damaged, or corroded. Which means if you've got a mint-state 1984 P Jefferson nickel with full steps, or better yet, with a rare mint error, the value is only going up. And in the right setting, with the right bidder, even a humble 5-cent coin can spark a bidding war that reaches extraordinary numbers. So before you spend that old nickel, take a second look. You just might be holding something that turns a trip to the coin shop into a life-changing payday. The 1984 P. Jefferson nickel may not be made of silver or gold, but in the world of coin collectors, it might as well be. 1987 D. Jefferson nickel. This isn't just any 5-cent piece. This little coin could be hiding a fortune right in your pocket change. Yes, you heard that right. Some examples of the 1987 D. Jefferson nickel have sold for thousands, and a few are speculated to be worth up to $1 million under the right conditions. So, how is this possible? Let's uncover the details. Let's start with a little background. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. It features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. The design has gone through some changes over the decades, but the 1987 D version still features the classic Monticello design. The D mint mark stands for the Denver Mint where this particular nickel was struck. Now, on paper, the 1987 D Jefferson nickel is incredibly common. Over 350 million were minted. That's right, millions upon millions. So why on earth would anyone pay a fortune for one? Let's break it down. There are 3 things that make coins valuable: rarity, demand, and condition. But sometimes, a 4th factor creeps in: errors. That's where the story of the 1987 D Jefferson nickel gets interesting. Among those hundreds of millions minted, a few coins were struck with major minting errors. These errors include off-center strikes, double dies, full steps details, and even rare planchet errors that weren't supposed to happen. Some of these coins made it out into circulation, and collectors began spotting them years later. Let's talk about full steps first. On the reverse side of the Jefferson nickel, Monticello's steps are visible. A coin that shows 5 or 6 full, uninterrupted steps is considered extremely well struck and significantly more valuable. Most nickels from 1987 lack this detail due to worn dies or poor strikes. But a 1987 D nickel with full steps designation, especially in uncirculated condition, can fetch hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars at auction. Now let's go even deeper. Point 1 of the most astonishing examples came when a near-perfect 1987 D Jefferson nickel with full steps and an MS-68 grade was sold for over $10,000. That's right, a 5-cent coin sold for over 10 grand. And that's just for an exceptional strike with full steps. What if we add in a mint error? Coins that combine mint errors with pristine condition can explode in value. For instance, a 1987 D Jefferson nickel with a double die obverse or struck on a wrong planchet, especially if it's graded by a top service like PCGS or NGC, could push into 5-figure territory. So where do the $1 million rumors come from? There's a circulating story in the coin community that a 1987 D Jefferson nickel struck on a bronze planchet, or possibly even an experimental alloy planchet, exists. If such a coin is authenticated, it could be one of a kind. Combine that with a top-tier mint state condition and a prominent error, and suddenly, we are no longer talking hundreds or thousands. We're talking serious 6 or even 7 figures. Now here's the kicker. These coins can still be out there. That's right. These errors are so rare and so few have been documented that there's a chance someone might still find one in a forgotten coin jar, pocket change, or old collection box. Imagine finding a coin that's worth a house while digging through your loose change. So what should you be looking for? Grab a magnifying glass and start inspecting the steps on Monticello. Are they full and crisp? Check the obverse for any signs of doubling in the letters or numbers. Look at the coin's weight and color. Does it feel lighter? Heavier? Off color? You could be looking at an off-metal strike, and above all, condition is everything. A 1987 D Jefferson nickel in average circulated condition is only worth face value. But one in mint state with an error or full steps. That's where the magic begins. If you think you've found something special, send it in for grading. Top-tier services like PCGS or NGC can confirm its authenticity and assign a grade, which massively increases its market value. Let's do a quick recap. The 1987 D Jefferson nickel was minted by the hundreds of millions. Most are worth only 5 cents. But a small percentage with mint errors or exceptional strike quality can be worth hundreds, thousands, or more. And in some extremely rare cases, a unique era coin in mint condition might even cross into the $1 million club. So dig through your change, check your old rolls, and look twice at that nickel before you spend it. You never know what treasure might be hiding in plain sight. 1989 D Mint Mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. That's right, a 5-cent coin that, in some cases, could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even up to $1 million to the right collector. So what makes the 1989 D Jefferson nickel so special? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about the basics. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American coinage since 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, it features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front, and his home, Monticello, on the back. In 1989, these nickels were struck in large numbers. Over 600 million coins came out of the Denver Mint that year. So on the surface, the 1989 D nickel doesn't seem rare at all. But as with many coins, the real value lies in the details, and in the errors. Collectors and experts have been paying serious attention to era coins and high-grade examples of the 1989 D Jefferson nickel. There are a few key things to look for that could turn your average 5-cent coin into a high-value collectible. First up, minting errors. Coins with striking mistakes can be worth big money. One of the rarest and most sought after is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned during the minting process. A 1989 D Jefferson nickel with an off-center strike of more than 50% and with the date still fully visible can fetch hundreds, or even thousands of dollars at auction. Then there are die cracks and die clashes. These are flaws that happen when the dies used to stamp the coins develop cracks or strike without a planchet in between. These kinds of errors can create wild and unique patterns on the surface of the coin, and collectors love these anomalies because no two are exactly alike. If you've got a 1989 D nickel with a dramatic die crack or clash, hold on to it. It could be worth a small fortune. Another thing to look for is the full steps designation. On the reverse side of the coin, that's the side with Monticello, check the steps leading up to the building. If all 5 or 6 steps are clearly visible with nowhere, you might have what's called a full steps Jefferson nickel. These are extremely hard to find in circulation because even slight wear removes the detail. But if yours has full steps and it's in near perfect condition, the value jumps significantly. Some full steps 1989 D nickels in high grades have sold for over $10,000 at auction. Now let's talk about grading. Condition is everything in the coin world. A 1989 D Jefferson nickel in worn or average circulated condition might still be worth face value. But take that same coin in a pristine, mint state grade, think MS66, MS67, or higher, and you're looking at hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on rarity, demand, and condition. The highest graded examples are incredibly rare, and top pop coins, that's short for top population, are where the $1 million potential starts to creep in. Let's say a coin grading service like PCGS or NGC finds a perfect or nearly perfect 1989 D nickel with a rare error or full steps designation. If it's the best known example in the world, collectors with deep pockets will bid aggressively to own it. That's how a nickel becomes a 6-figure or even 7-figure asset. In fact, there have been auctions where obscure Jefferson nickels fetched prices nobody expected, because serious collectors are always chasing the rarest and finest coins available. So now you might be wondering, how do I know if I have one of these rare nickels? Here's what you do. Grab a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look carefully at the date and mint mark. Confirm it's a 1989 D. Then flip it over and examine the steps on Monticello. Count them. Are they fully struck and sharp? Look for signs of errors. Is the strike off center? Are there strange lines or ghost-like images on either side of the coin? Any unusual features could mean a valuable mint error. Consider sending the coin to a reputable grading service. They can officially grade and certify the coin's authenticity and condition. If you think you have something special, this is the best way to find out its true value. Do your research. Watch recent auctions and sales. Sites like Heritage Auctions or eBay can show you real-time pricing data and what collectors are paying for specific types of 1989D nickels. Before we wrap up, here's a quick recap. The 1989D Monticello Jefferson nickel may seem like just another coin, but rare errors, full steps details, and high-grade examples can turn it into a collector's dream. Some have already sold for thousands. And who knows, maybe you're holding on to the next $1 million nickel. So check your change. Dig through those old jars. And don't overlook the small stuff. Sometimes, the biggest treasures come in the smallest packages. If you found this video helpful or exciting, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update on the world of rare coins and collectibles. Got a cool coin story or think you found a rare 1989D nickel? Drop a comment below, we'd love to hear about it. 1992p Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it might look like just another 5-cent piece, but some rare varieties and collector demand are turning heads, and in some cases, commanding jaw-dropping prices. Could you be holding a nickel worth thousands, or even more? Let's find out. The 1992p Jefferson nickel was minted in Philadelphia, which is why it bears the P mint mark. Over 600 million of these nickels were produced that year, so they're not rare by mintage numbers alone. But as with many coins, it's not just about how many were made, it's about how they were made. What makes certain 1992p nickels so valuable has everything to do with condition, die varieties, and most importantly, errors. Some of these coins, when found in pristine condition or with the right die anomaly, have sold for staggering amounts. Let's break it down. First up, condition. If your 1992p nickel is in circulation, it might be worth face value. But if you come across one in mint state condition, meaning it has full details, sharp luster, and no signs of wear, you could be sitting on something much more valuable. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC and MS67 or higher can fetch anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Why? Because there are very few 1992p nickels that survive in top grades. As of now, fewer than a handful have been certified in grades like MS68. And when supply is that low and demand from serious collectors is high, the prices can explode. Now let's talk about full steps, a major factor in Jefferson nickel collecting. On the reverse of the coin, look closely at Monticello. The steps leading up to the building are key. If all the steps are clearly defined and uninterrupted, the coin qualifies as a full steps designation. For the 1992p, finding a full steps version in mint condition is incredibly tough. Those that exist in high grade with full steps can sell for several $1,000s at auction. One of the finest examples known sold for over $10,000. Now here's where it gets even more exciting: errors and varieties. There are 1992p nickels that have been found with off-center strikes, double dies, and other minting mishaps. These errors can drive the price way up. Collectors pay top dollar for rare and dramatic errors. One of the most talked about errors is the double die obverse, where the date, mint mark, or lettering appears doubled under magnification. These kinds of coins are extremely collectible, especially if they're in great shape. There's also speculation in the community about transitional errors, coins minted with design elements from different years. While nothing has been officially confirmed on that front for the 1992p, collectors are always on the hunt for these anomalies. And if you find one, you could be holding a coin worth tens of thousands, maybe even more. You may have heard rumors about a 1992p nickel selling for $1 million. So what's the truth? While no verified auction has yet crossed the $1 million mark for this coin, some listings online, especially for coins with wild errors or unusually high grades, have been posted for 6 or 7 figures. Whether they sell or not is another question, but the hype shows just how much excitement surrounds this coin. Could a unique 1992p nickel, with a one-of-a-kind error or the finest possible grade, break auction records in the future? It's possible. We've seen coins surprise everyone before. All it takes is one well-heeled collector and a coin with the right story. So, how do you know if your nickel is valuable? First, look for that P mint mark just to the right of Monticello on the reverse. Next, check the condition. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect for sharpness in the details, especially on Monticello and Jefferson's hair. Then, examine the steps on Monticello. Are they full and clear, or are they mushy and worn down? And finally, look for any signs of doubling, die cracks, or off-center strikes. If you spot something odd or interesting, it may be time to get it evaluated by a professional grading service. The 1992 P. Jefferson nickel might seem like an ordinary coin, but with the right condition, variety, or error, it could be worth far more than 5 cents. In fact, it could be worth thousands, and yes, maybe even $1 million one day if the right coin turns up. So check your change, dig through those old coin jars, and take a closer look at every nickel you come across. You never know, the next coin that changes your life might be hiding in plain sight. 2000 P. Monticello Jefferson nickel. Yes, the one with the Philadelphia mint mark. It might just be sitting in your pocket change right now, and believe it or not, some versions of this coin have been valued in the high thousands, even nearing the $1 million mark under the right circumstances. So how is that even possible? How can a coin minted in the year 2000 be worth so much? What exactly should you look for, and how do you know if you're holding a treasure or just 5 cents? Let's get into the full story of the 2000 P. Jefferson nickel and find out first a little background. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. The design features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic home Monticello on the reverse. In the year 2000, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these nickels, but like many coins, errors happen, and in this case some very rare and valuable mistakes turned ordinary pocket change into collectible gold mines. So what makes a 2000 P. Jefferson nickel special? One-word errors. These coins are famous for striking mistakes that went unnoticed at the time, but are now worth a fortune to collectors. Let's talk about the most valuable ones. Double die errors. This is when the design elements are doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. If you see doubling in the word Liberty, or on Jefferson's eye, or any part of the Monticello building, that could be a sign you're looking at a double die error. And yes, some of these have sold for thousands. Off-center strikes. Some 2000 P nickels were struck off-center, meaning the coin didn't sit properly when the die came down, resulting in a partial image. If the off-center strike is severe and the date and mint mark are still visible, that coin can easily be worth a couple hundred to several $1,000s depending on the severity. Full steps nickels. This one's big collectors love. Nickels with full steps on the Monticello building. A perfect strike reveals 5 or 6 full steps at the base of the building. These are incredibly hard to find because most coins wear down quickly, but a 2000 P with clear full steps, especially in uncirculated condition, can bring high premiums at auction. And then we have planchet errors and wrong metal strikes. There are rumors and even a few verified cases of 2000 P nickels struck on foreign planchets or different metal compositions. If authenticated, these could be worth tens of thousands or more. Now let's talk real numbers. A known double die 2000 P nickel in pristine condition once fetched nearly $4,000 at auction. A full steps version graded MS68 by a top grading company crossed the 5-figure mark, and while no confirmed 2000 P Jefferson nickel has yet hit the $1 million sale point, it is entirely possible that one with a rare minting anomaly combined with perfect condition could reach that status, especially in today's collector-driven market. It's also worth noting that private sales are not always reported, so there's a chance some incredibly rare examples have changed hands for staggering amounts behind closed doors. So how can you tell if you have a rare 2000 P nickel? First, check the coin under a magnifying glass or microscope. Look for doubling in the text on both sides. Focus on the words Liberty, Monticello, and United States of America. Second, look at the steps on the Monticello building. Do they appear clean, sharp, and fully formed? Count them. Are there 5 or 6 full visible steps? That's what collectors want. Next, examine the edges and overall strike quality. Is the design well centered? Are there any signs of off-center minting? Is the metal color strange or lighter or darker than usual? These could all be signs of rare variations. And finally, consider sending your coin to a professional grading service. If you believe your coin is special, a grading company can confirm its authenticity, condition, and market value, which makes it much easier to sell or insure. The 2000 P. Jefferson nickel is proof that treasure might still be hiding in plain sight. Whether you're a serious collector or just curious about the change in your drawer, it's worth taking a closer look. With hundreds of millions of these coins minted, most are only worth face value, but those rare few with minting errors, perfect strikes, or unusual features can be worth hundreds, thousands, or maybe even $1 million in the future. So before you toss your nickels into a vending machine, give them a second look. You never know what kind of history or value might be right there in your hand. 2006 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark, minted in Philadelphia. Now before you toss another nickel into a vending machine or a tip jar, you might want to take a closer look, because that humble coin could be worth way more than you think. Let's break it all down. In 2006, the United States Mint wrapped up the Westward Journey nickel series and returned to a classic design. The beloved Monticello reverse, originally created by Felix Schlag on the obverse, though there was a twist. The traditional image of Thomas Jefferson got a modern facelift featuring a forward-facing portrait. This marked a fresh chapter for the nickel, combining tradition with a sleek contemporary design. But what makes the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel so special today is not just the new look, it's what happened in the minting process, and how a few rare varieties are now commanding jaw-dropping prices. Let's talk numbers. The Philadelphia Mint struck over $500 million of these coins, more than 600 million to be exact. That means these coins are not rare by mintage alone. But what if I told you there are a few versions of this coin that collectors are paying thousands for, even into the 5 or 6 figure range? First up are the error coins. You see, sometimes during minting things go slightly off track. A die might crack or shift or fail to strike cleanly, and when that happens we get error coins. And collectors love them. Examples of off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die clashes from 2006 have sold for anywhere from $50 to several hundred, depending on the condition and severity of the error. Now let's turn our attention to the big fish, the high-grade examples in the world of coin grading. At 2006 P. Jefferson nickel in mint state 65 is common, but in mint state 67 with full steps, a designation that means the steps on Monticello are completely struck and visible, the population drops drastically. One of these coins, graded MS67FS by PCGS, sold for more than $5,000 at auction. That's right, a 5-cent coin sold for over $5,000 just because it was in near perfect condition. Now you might be thinking, wait, didn't you say $1 million nickel? Yes, and here's why that isn't as crazy as it sounds. When coins combine extreme rarity with error features, historical significance, or perfect grading, the price can go astronomical. We've seen modern Lincoln pennies and Roosevelt dimes sell for over $1 million under the right circumstances. If a 2006 P. Jefferson nickel were to surface with an extraordinary mint error in a top population grade, say MS68 or higher, with full steps and confirmed as a one-of-a-kind, the right collector might be willing to pay 6 or even 7 figures. That's not fantasy, that's the world of high-end numismatics. So how do you know if you've got one of these sleeping giants in your change jar? Look for the P. mint mark, which stands for Philadelphia. Flip the coin and examine the steps on Monticello. Can you count all 5 or 6 lines clearly with no breaks? If so, you might have a full steps variety. Then check the surface under a magnifying glass. Any unusual doubling, cracking, or misalignment could be signs of a valuable error. And if the coin is bright, uncirculated, and shows no scratches or wear, that's your green light to send it in for grading. You can submit your coin to grading services like PCGS or Enchtheel, authenticate, grade, and certify it. And if it's a top population example, it could change your life literally. So the next time you get a nickel in change, don't underestimate it, because your average pocket change might just hold $1 million treasure. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into coins that could make you rich, and comment below, have you ever found a valuable coin in your pocket? 2014 Jefferson nickel with the Denver Mint mark. That's right, the 2014 D. Jefferson nickel. At face value, it's just 5 cents. But under the right conditions, this common-looking coin could be hiding extraordinary value. So what makes this particular nickel so special? To start with, the 2014 D. Jefferson nickel features the iconic image of Thomas Jefferson on the front and the classic Monticello building on the back. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins, so on the surface, they seem like nothing out of the ordinary. But that's where it gets interesting. Among those millions of nickels, there are rare varieties, high-grade examples, and error coins that have collectors on high alert. Some of these nickels have fetched hundreds, even thousands of dollars at auction. And in a few cases, experts believe that under the right circumstances, a flawless example or an extreme mint error could be worth close to $1 million. Now let's break this down. The majority of 2014 D nickels are only worth face value. You can find them in circulation, in coin rolls, or tucked away in change jars across America. But in numismatics, condition is everything. The coins that are worth serious money are those that have never been touched by human hands. These are known as mint state coins. If a 2014 D Jefferson nickel is graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC and it receives a perfect grade of MS70, that's where things get exciting. MS70 is the highest possible grade, meaning the coin has no visible flaws even under magnification. Coins with this grade are incredibly rare. And when demand is high, the price can skyrocket. Let's take a real-world example. An MS68 2014 D Jefferson nickel has sold for well over $1,000 in the past. That's 60,000 times its face value. Now imagine a perfect MS70 coin coming up for auction. Add in the possibility of a dramatic mint error, like an off-center strike, a double die, or a wrong planchet, and the price could shoot into the stratosphere. Collectors and investors alike are constantly hunting for coins with both rarity and perfection. A coin that combines those traits could break records. And yes, some numismatists believe that the right combination of error, condition, and timing could push a modern nickel to a valuation close to $1 million. It hasn't happened yet with a 2014 D, but the potential is real. So how do you know if you have a valuable one? First, check the condition. If it looks pristine, with no scratches, no dings, and strong detail, it might be worth submitting to a grading service. Second, look for errors. Does something seem off? Is the design shifted? Are there doubled letters or missing elements? These are the types of errors that collectors love. Lastly, check for high demand. Coins rise in value when collectors compete for them. The 2014 D Jefferson nickel might be modern, but that doesn't mean it can't be valuable. In fact, modern coins are becoming increasingly popular with a new generation of collectors. And that means values are rising faster than ever. In the world of coin collecting, the ordinary can become extraordinary. So next time you get change back at the store, take a second look. That simple nickel in your pocket might just be worth far more than 5 cents. Maybe even $1 million. 2022 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark. At first glance, this coin might just look like any other pocket change, but what if I told you some versions of this coin could be worth thousands and in rare cases even reach into the $1 million range? You heard that right, a modern nickel potentially worth a fortune. So don't go anywhere, because in this video we're breaking down exactly why this coin is so special, what makes it valuable, and what you should be looking for in your spare change. Right. Now let's start with a bit of background. The Jefferson nickel has been in production since 1938, featuring President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home Monticello on the reverse. Over the years there have been a few design tweaks, but the basic concept has stayed the same. Now the 2022 version, minted in Philadelphia, bears the P mint mark, and while millions of these coins were produced, only a tiny percentage carry the key traits that make them extremely valuable to collectors. So what makes a 2022 P Jefferson nickel potentially worth big money? It all comes down to a few key factors: rarity, condition, errors, and demand. Let's unpack those one by one. First, rarity. Although the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, certain die errors or early strikes create ultra-rare versions that collectors go wild for. That brings us to our second point: condition. If you've got a 2022 P Jefferson nickel in near-perfect condition, known as mint state, especially MS67 or higher, you could be holding a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and those top-grade coins are often found in uncirculated rolls. So if you're buying sealed rolls from banks or coin dealers, keep a sharp eye out. Third, let's talk about errors. This is where things get really exciting. Some 2022 P nickels have been discovered with striking errors like double dies, off-center strikes, and die clashes. There are even reports of misplaced mint marks and what's called a cut error, where a chunk of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob on the coin's surface. These error coins are often one of a kind or incredibly scarce, and that's what sends their value soaring. Now you might be wondering, how much are we really talking about here? Well, listen to this. In early 2023, a flawless 2022 P Jefferson nickel graded MS68 by a top grading service sold for over $1,500 at auction. That's for a 5-cent coin, and error versions can go for even more depending on rarity and condition. Collectors are paying thousands for the best examples, and as interest grows, the prices keep climbing. Some experts even believe that the right combination of grade error and market timing could push a single 2022p error nickel into the 6 or 7 figure range in the future. That's why some collectors are already calling it a sleeper coin, a hidden gem just waiting to be discovered in everyday change. So, what should you do if you think you've found one? Here's the checklist. First, don't clean the coin. That's rule number 1 in numismatics, because cleaning can destroy the value. Next, examine it closely under magnification. Look for signs of doubling, especially around the lettering and the Monticello building. Check the rims and fields for any odd bumps, cracks, or shifts that might signal a mint error. If it looks unusual or is in exceptional condition, consider sending it to a professional grading service for authentication. Yes, there's a fee, but for a coin that might be worth thousands, it's well worth it. And don't forget to compare your coin to recent auction results. Online prices are constantly changing, so staying up to date can help you know what your coin is really worth. Alright, before we wrap up, let me give you one more reason to check your change today. Some of the rarest and most valuable coins in history were discovered by everyday people just like you, not collectors, not dealers, but regular folks who took a closer look at what most of us overlook. And the 2022p Jefferson nickel is shaping up to be one of those modern treasures. So get out your coin jars, check your pockets, and keep your eyes peeled. That next nickel you find might just be worth more than your rent.